Shadow Serperior fires off the Frenzy Plant, finally moving Olga from the field of play. Out comes Samurott. G-Weezy temporarily makes an appearance. Out comes Greninja, but blink and you might miss it as Greninja going to be straight in and straight out. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at not one, but two of Niantic's recently released Shadow Pokemon in Shadow Serperior and Shadow Samourott. Last season, I was probably the only person that attempted to run Shadow Samourott in the Open Great League, and I'll be honest, I didn't have all that much success. On paper, Samurott shares a lot of similarities with Meta Kingpin Feraligatr, taking only 10 turns to that busted move of Hydro Cannon. It's even got a better coverage move. Megahorn is objectively better than Ice Beam and still gets the job done nuking them grass types. The main issue I was facing with Samurott last season is despite Fury Cutter generating 4 EPT, it was just hitting everything in the meta for resisted or neutral damage, and it was just applying so very little fast move pressure. However, fast forward to season 22, Psychic types got a huge buff, meaning they're now back in the meta, which also draws Dark types out, two things Samurott is going to have a very nice time against. We're going to round the team off with Lapras, the absolute top meta threat. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, right off the bat, we found ourselves one of them buffed Psychic types. I still find it kind of hilarious that Grumpig is now a top meta threat. This thing used to be dreadful. I end up throwing the Frenzy Plant on CMP. Of course, Grumpig used to be ranked 1000. I had no idea of its attack stat, but I've looked it up and I'm going to tell you it's 114, which is 4 higher than Serperior. The opponent ends up attempting to CMP time me again, and that is a huge mistake for them and massive for me. Serperior always face an uphill battle trying to win this 2-shield scenario, but sneaking that free Vine Whip means we're going to be able to outpace by a single turn going straight Frenzy Plant, and we're going to be removing Grumpig from the field of play. Down goes Grumpig, the opponent sends out Wigglytuff, we make the pivot into Lapras, baiting out Cradilly. Today's team strategy is a standard ABB strategy where Lapras is on the team looking to bait out the opponent's best water type counter. We enable ourselves to do that. The opponent gets far too greedy, misjudging just how quick Lapras has generated energy. They go down with a whole heap of energy and just the Marshmallow remains. Back out comes the Marshmallow. The opponent going to fire off the Swift. Swift, a pretty good move, but Lapras, far too tick, far too bulky, able to withstand the damage, reach one departing Sparkling Aura, rocking them deep into the red health range. Samurott hits the field of play just to get that glory knockout. We reach the Hydro Cannon, of course, from this range. That is going to be all she wrote, and we're off to a 1-0 start. GG's. Heading into the next battle this time, we see Clod in the lead. Clodsires can run Sludge Bomb. I think Sludge Bomb's actually preferred this season. The opponent certainly has Sludge Bomb as they end up throwing on 6. So I am going to respect the damage. We've seen the opponent instant through that. You've kind of got to recognise opponent's play pattern. So I'm going to farm up, bank the Frenzy Plant, and look to catch the Sludge Bomb onto Lapras. Once again, I'm checking to see what the opponent's best water type counter is. Of course, if they're going to run Clod in the lead, they're going to need some kind of check for water types. Out comes Azumarill, the very bulky, annoying Blue Bunny. The opponent going to fire off the Play Rough. Lapras withstands the damage and going to fire off the Skull Bash. Skull Bash going to hit for a lot of neutral damage and buff up my defense. If the opponent looked for that bubble farm down, Lapras will not be denied, reaching the Sparkling Aura. Yes, I call it Aura. Aura is very hard to pronounce, forcing my Protect Shield back. The opponent leaves with an Ice Beam, so I've got two choices. I could send out Serperior, throw my Frenzy Plant instantly, denying their energy. Instead, I send out Samurott, hoping the opponent spamming the Ice Beam. Unfortunately, they're not. We tank the Play Rough, send out Serperior, get a full Vine Whip farm down, back out comes Clodsire. We are doubled up, Frenzy Plant goes unshielded, removing them from the field of play, and out comes Jumpluff. So the opponent has yet another water type counter. Have a Samurott with a coverage move, and we're able to force the opponent's final Protect Shield and land the second Aerial Ace, and Samurott is certainly about to be a grass type counter confirmed. Serperior has done its job. We instantly no shield. Aerial Ace removes me from the field of play. Out comes Samurott. Samurott going to be racing to that Megahorn. Megahorn only going to hit for neutral, as grass takes super effective from bug and flying does resist, but Samurott easily picks up the one shot, and I take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the Kentucky Fried Chicken, a Bird of Death. I throw one Vine Whip, transfer the Incinerate onto Lapras. And this is one of the things I did not like about Samurott whatsoever. Our quick move is going to be hitting for double resisted when we get aligned in that matchup later. The opponent went for the fly. I did shield fearful of a Brave Bird and dip, and I instantly regret it. Out comes Primeape. We force our Protect Shield back. The opponent fire off the close combat, remove me from the field of play. I'm going to send back out Serperior. I'm going to wait for the opponent to close combat once again and hope that I can snipe with enough Fury Cutters before they reach a charge move. There's the close combat. We send out Samurott, the opponent with a quad debuff defense. Fury Cutter is so underwhelming. I'm unable to farm down before the Rage Fist is reached. Out comes Diggersby. So if I would have actually got that farm down, Samurott would have looked primed to sweep. However, I'm just too low. We fire off the first Hydro Cannon. I'm going to reach one further Hydro Cannon. The opponent very unlikely to shield. Recognising I'm just going to get Incinerated farm down. Out comes Talonflame. And I am going to concede the match. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see some Shadow on Shadow crime with Sableye into Serperior. The opponent attempts to trap me into the CMP tie. I know I lose CMP, so I opt for the extra Vine Whip. The opponent then sends out Clodsire, trying to catch the Frenzy Plant. We bank all our energy and Lapras hits the field of play. A lot of Clodsire are running Sludge Bomb, but I think on the Say Switch, a lot are probably going to have Stone Edge, and I get hit with a Stone Edge to the face, but undeterred, Lapras withstood the damage, fired off the Sparkling Aura, and once again, I'm not opting to throw here. The opponent's in a perfect range for Samurott to come in and get a very nice resisted Fury Cutter farm down. We get a very nice energy lead. The opponent sends out Grumpig, attempt to catch onto Sableye unsuccessfully. I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon going to be removing them from the field of play, and this already looks like game over. Back out comes Grumpig. Of course, I'm going to invest my first Protect Shield. I'm going to farm to the Megahorn, fire off the Hydro Cannon bait, but at this point, is it even a bait? They really need to start shielding. The opponent calls the bait, and they can just die with 2 shields, saving them for next season. Heading into the next battle. Dreadful lead. We Say Switch into Lapras, baiting out Emolga. I really like the look of Emolga. It has been so heavily buffed recently. Thundershot got buffed. Discharge got reworked. It's now quicker to get to, but does less damage, and Acrobatics now also costs less energy. However, as Discharge does less, I know I survived one. I farmed the Ice Beam, baited with the Sparkling Aura. Well, it's not really a bait, I don't even have Ice Beam. I just faked it till I made it. We're then able to reach one departing Sparkling Aura. Thankfully, the opponent shielded as my Fat Farm or Fat Finger brought up some side up, and I didn't actually hit all the bubbles. I send out Serperior. I'm going to invest the Protect Shield, as at this point, I don't really know how to get rid of this thing. I didn't really want to shield, but I thought I had no choice. Frenzy Plant picks up the knockout. We pivot out into Samurott. The opponent banks some energy. Send out Greninja, and it is Samurott's time to shine. We're going to fire off the Megahorn. Greninja straight in and straight out. An argument could have been made that I should have overfarmed. My thought process, Greninja hits like a truck. I didn't want to tank a Night Slash and get low, so the opponent could Fairy Wind farm me down. We tank the Sludge, fire off the Hydro Cannon rocks them into the red health range. You can see I'm trying to spam the switch and unable to do so. We send out Serperior, and I want to test how much a Sludge does. PV Poke says around 65%. The opponent nuked me with the overheat, and I'll be honest, I was smiling ear to ear. The opponent had one win con, landing the overheat, and they did that. GG's to that opponent, and I love the fact you full send. Heading into the next battle. We saw Grumpig in the lead. The opponent Say Switch into Cradilly, and ironically this is definitely where I want to see it. Due to them being a grass and rock type, my grass type damage hits for neutral. The Bullet Seeds will be resisted, and the Rock Tomb is going to hit for neutral and very annoyingly debuff my attack. As I'm debuffed, Aerial Ace probably wouldn't knock out, so I play it safe, full send the Frenzy Plant, picking up the knockout. We're able to win the 0 shield scenario. And I also leave with residual energy good to go. Out comes Morpeko, and at this point I was thinking, oof, I am in trouble. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, and rather than concede a farm down, I pivot out into Samurott. The opponent farms an Aura Wheel, which I will be respecting. Thankfully, I don't get baited with the Psychic Fangs. I'm then going to overfarm, fire off the Hydro Cannon just before the next Aura Wheel's reached. In an ideal world, I'd love the opponent to let this go. The opponent invests that Protect Shield and opt to dump their energy. I need to save a shield for Lapras, as Dynamic Punch will rock me deep into the red health range with the residual Psywaves. This now looks like a very tough game to win. I send out Lapras. The opponent bank the Aura Wheel of the road and pivot into Grumpig. I am going to shield up the Dynamic Punch. I'm then going to overfarm. Sparkle Aura won't remove them from the field of play, so I'm going to full send the Skull Bash. Skull Bash will be picking up the one shot. The opponent banked the charge move. I anticipate him looking to snipe Lapras. We're able to make the catch back onto Serperior. Lapras with residual energy, going to win the race to that next Sparkling Aura, and somehow we're able to emerge victorious. I think if the opponent would have just stayed in, forced my shield with a Sparkling Aura, then Dynamic Punch me, they would have got the job done. But it is what it is, and I'm not complaining. Heading into the next battle, we see another G-Weezy in the lead. Last time, we got absolutely clapped with an overheat, but this opponent quickly reveals that they're going to go for a brutal swing and dip, which almost certainly means that they're going to be running the buff move as sludge as a second move, so at least we're not going to get overheated at some point. The opponent pivoted into Cradilly. Of course, I don't have Ice Beam, but I'm always going to fake it till I make it, and I'm able to obtain myself a shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup. The opponent overfarmed before picking up the knockout, and this Cradilly is in such an awkward health range as they overfarmed. They're able to debuff me before I reach the Frenzy Plant, and that's going to mean this Frenzy Plant simply will not get the job done. I could shield and farm down, however I'm thinking, what is Serperior going to do against that Galarian Weezing? Instead, we're going to trust in Samurott looking to sweep. Samurott comes in, gets a very nice Fury Cutter farm down, back out comes Galarian Weezing. We're going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon won't quite be lethal, but will leave him low. Again, we're going to see the issue with Samurott. We're applying such little fast move pressure. I'm going to shoot at the Brutal Swing. The opponent then pivots out into Claydol. Is this a winnable matchup? We're going to heavily overfarm, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon goes unshielded. It looks like the opponent's committing to fast moves. They get me low. Back out comes Galarian Weezing. We fire off the first Hydro Cannon. Can the opponent Fairywind farm me down before the next Hydro Cannon? They cannot. I've given Samurott a whole heap of jip, but finally it pulls its weight, sweeping the team. Let's go. Heading into the next battle. We see Claydol in the lead, and the opponent opts to Safe Switch into Cradilly. You'd think this is a good matchup, and last season it would have been, but the opponent having access to Rock Tomb means Cradilly more than holds its own. The opponent throws on alignment after 6 Bullet Seeds. I get a free Vine Whip, but that also means they're 2 Bullet Seeds off the next move, so with that in mind, I'm going to throw at suboptimal timing, firing off this Frenzy Plant before I inevitably get debuffed once again. I am going to save Serperior, so I'm going to invest a Protect Shield, then going to pivot into Lapras, get a little cheeky running start, and see if the opponent's got a better answer for me in the back. The opponent sends back up Claydol. Claydol, kind of neutral into this matchup, to be honest, as we are hitting for resisted with the sideways, and of course they do have access to Rock Tomb. We get the opponent below half health. They actually fire off the Scorching Sands, meaning potentially they don't have Rock Tomb. I'm not entirely sure why you wouldn't throw Rock Tomb if you had it. I fire off the Sparkle Aura, picking up the knockout, and out comes the Marshmallow. The win con for me is pretty simple. I need to reach 3 charge moves. I'm going to send back out Serperior with that residual energy. I am going to throw this Frenzy Plant, not at the best timing, just looking to get it off. But if I would have actually thrown an extra Vine Whip, I would have been sad and I would have got knocked out. So throwing an alignment was the correct play. We're now going to send out Samurott. The opponent, of course, going to debuff me with an Icy Wind. But unfortunately for this opponent, we're far too spammy and hit far too hard for that to enable them to survive 2 Hydro Cannons. The first one gets them into the red. The opponent looks for that tap, charm down, farm down. Samurott says no, reach the next Hydro Cannon, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we've got my favourite type of matchup, some Shadow on Shadow crime. Dust Noir into Serperior. The opponent banks a Shadow Punch and then send out more Peko. Very, very appreciative to see this thing on the field of play. The opponent goes straight for a Psychic Fangs, a debuff in my defence. I think people love to bait more Peko. I'm not baiting. I'm full sending their Frenzy Plant, and just like that, this very annoying threat is removed from the field of play. Dust Noir did bank a Shadow Punch, and they're forced to throw it instantly. As if they go for an Astonish, we're only 1 Vine Whip off the next Frenzy Plant. The opponent opts to instant throw, removing me from the field of play, and I'm going to send out Lapras. This is only a Shadow Punch, however I don't want to tank it. Put myself in a range where the opponent can get that Astonish farm down. Astonishes from Shadow Dust Noir just do so much damage. I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Sparkling Aura. The opponent invests the Protect Shield, and you can already see the Astonishes have got me below half health. I'm going to shield this next one up and look to sideway farm down. Can we achieve it? Unfortunately, we cannot, so we're going to bank our energy and catch onto Samurott. The Shadow Punch just does so much damage. The opponent then pivots out into Ariados, and Ariados is going to be greeted with the Hydro Cannon. Samurott with a 125 attack, that just does so much damage. The opponent's lack of respect for just how hard Samurott hits is going to be the final nail in their coffin. They're unable to double up on charges. Lapras sideway farms down Ariados, sideway farm down Dust Noir, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, once again we see Clodsire on the lead. I'm going to go for a high risk, high reward play, bank a Frenzy Plant, and look to catch a Sludge Bomb onto Lapras. If the opponent would have overfarmed there, Lapras could have took a lot of damage from a Stone Edge, but thankfully it worked out for me. Out comes Primeape. The opponent goes straight for a Rage Fist, hoping they can Rage Fist into a Karate Chop farm down before the Sparkling Aura is reached, but Lapras is just such a monster. The opponent unable to do that, and they're forced to give up a Protect Shield. I'm going to send back out Serperior. This is enough for a boosted close combat. which would knock me out from here or come very close, so I'm going to respect it. We correctly shield it up. We're then going to overfarm, fire off the aerial ace, looking to pick up the knockout. Down goes Primate, back out. Comes Clodsire. I think I should Frenzy Plant and then look to catch, but instead I bank almost 100 energy and make the catch onto Samurott. Sludge Bomb, gonna do a lot. The opponent then pivots out into Dugong. This is one matchup that Samurott can more than hold its own. We go straight for the Megahorn, no reason to bait here whatsoever. Megahorn rocks them instantly below half health. At this point, I'm going to trust in Samurott cleaning up, despite both Pokemon remaining, hitting me super effective with their quick move. I'm going to throw this aerial ace instantly, anticipating knocking out and not taking the Ice Shard. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out. We do get an extra Vine Whip. This game is going to get very, very dicey. The opponent's Wing Con is Poison Sting farming me down before we reach Triple Frenzy Plant. However, they throw a charge move. Trainer, do not do that. If I've got a shield and your quick moves hitting for super effective, just go for that fast move beatdown, as you will not win the race to 3 charge moves. Is that going to cost them this match? Potentially. It looks like I would have actually survived one further Poison Sting, but I think the opponent certainly could have had a better chance of winning if they just committed to fast moves. But either way, we take that game. While we're on the subject, that Shadow Aerial Ace did absolutely nothing, and that is exactly why I call Aerial Ace Aerial Ass. The Germans know best. In the next battle, we see Azumarill in the lead. We land the Frenzy Plant. This is of course the first week of the season. I anticipated the opponent going for one bubble, then their charge moves. They easily survived the Vine Whip. So I would have looked to throw one Vine Whip and catch on Lapras. Instead, the opponent instant throw and I'm forced to give up a shield. Well, I'm not forced to give up a shield. I could have survived an Ice Beam, but I'm calling the opponent as something else in the back that doesn't want to see Serperior, and there it is. Oh, hello, Gator. Nice to see you, nice. We full send the Skull Bash, nuking the opponent through 2 Protect Shields. Get that Gator off my screen. Back out comes Clodsire, and the opponent concedes the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Morpeko in the lead. Nice to see it in the lead, and even nicer the opponents opted to stay in. They fire off the Aura Wheel, which is supposed to be resisted. I think someone forgot to tell my Grass Snake. Again, we're not going to bait. We're going to full send the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant forces my shield back. I played this matchup quite a few times last season. So you always full send the first time, and then you throw the Aerial Ace the second, as the Vine Whips just do so much damage. The opponent went for the Seed Bomb, anticipating me trying to catch. I like that play a lot. But regardless, we're able to win the one shield scenario. We pivot into Lapras, and out comes Jumpluff. This is kind of a neutral matchup, to be honest. The opponent can fire off an Energy Ball, but Energy Ball doesn't put me in a range where the opponent's ever going to be able to fail and farm me down. We're going to full send the Skull Bash. We haven't got Ice Beam, but even Skull Bash would do a lot, and we're able to force the opponent's final Protect Shield. The opponent heavily overfarms before firing off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace picks up the knockout. I'm going to send out Samurott. The opponent might instant throw an Aerial Ace, looking to remove Serperior from the field of play. We send out Samurott. This can only be an Aerial Ace, hence the instant no shield. We've seen throughout today's video that Samurott is very, very glassy, but unfortunately Aerial Ace simply does not get the job done, but I am going to shield the second one. The opponent then pivots out into Unova Stun Fist. We're going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon going to do absurd damage, but not enough to knock out. We're then going to bank our energy and make the catch back onto Serperior. The opponent fires off the Mud Bomb, rocking me deep into the red. We're able to Simul KO. We've got residual energy. We're easily going to win the race. Samurott, for the second time in today's video, is a Jumpluff counter confirmed, and we take that game. In the next battle, we see Sonic the Hedgehog in the lead. The opponent's on Powder Snow. Dreadful for us. We're going to throw a few Vine Whips, get a little bit of energy together, and then make the pivot into Lapras. Out comes Gastrodon. This isn't enough for an Earth Power, so this is the easiest no shield of my life. Body Slam, a pretty garbage move, especially from a Pokemon that doesn't get the same type attack bonus. I'm going to full send the Skull Bash. Skull Bash sneaks through the Protect Shield and vamps up my defense, meaning this Body Slam is going to do even less than the first. Despite seeing such a dreadful lead, Lapras on the Say Switch, such a monstrous this season, able to take back Switch, and Switch advantages everything in this matchup. Out comes Marowak. We're even able to force a Protect Shield. We send back out Serperior. The opponent pivots back out into Sandslash, and here comes Samurott. I'm going to no-shield the first move. If the opponent Ice Punch, we instantly win on the spot. The opponent fire off the Duaron, but that's fine. They're never ever Powder Snow farming me down. We're able to force the opponent's final Protect Shield with the Hydro Cannon. This is of course going to be the Ice Punch bait, but no bait. We'll be saving this opponent's fate. We're going to shield it up, fire off the next Hydro Cannon. Shadow Hydro Cannon going to do absurd damage because Samurott hits like a truck. The opponent then tried to snipe unsuccessfully. We send back out Serperior. The opponent playing it out to the very bitter end, but unless I have a heart attack, I really don't see too many win cons. I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant will be removing them from the field of play. The opponent going to have to try and Powder Snow farm me down. We reach the Aerial Ace, even resisted the solo that garbage. Aerial Ace picks up the dub, and it looks like the opponent finally rage quit the app after playing it out to the bitter end. I'm not entirely sure on that play, buddy, but we'll let you do you. Heading into the next battle. We see the annoying Marshmallow in the lead. Of course, I'm not going to bait this Pokemon. We're either going to force the shield or do big damage. As said previously, week 1 of the season, it's very difficult to judge when opponents are going to throw charge moves. But this opponent, I know, made day 2 a Liverpool Regional, so I know they're going to throw an odd number. So we attempt to catch the Icy Wind onto Lapras. Unfortunately, the opponent 5-heads me, throwing the Swift, but that's fine. Lapras, pretty bulky, and even withstands that really easily. We fire off the Sparkling Aura, picking up the knockout, and down goes the Marshmallow. Out comes Thickersby, and I'm thinking, what the heck is this team comp? A lot of people that make it really high up on the leaderboards are on wild team comps that kind of just work, and I'm thinking, what the heck is in the back? The opponent farm up 2 double Fire Punch. Lapras is so low that even a Fire Punch knocks us out. I haven't got a Frenzy Plant banked. I'm going to send back out Serperior. Aerial Ace wouldn't have got the job done, so I'm just going to take my extra Vine Whip and see what the opponent wants to do. Fire Punch, force my first Protect Shield, and are you kidding me? ABA Charm. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. We switch out into Samurott. This is Shadow on Shadow Crime. I anticipated this Hydro Cannon knocking out, but you're going to see the opponent able to survive deep in the red health range. But that's definitely one Vine Whip range. So I'm going to let Samurott go down, Vine Whip farm down before the Charm registers. Diggersby not going to add to Quick Attack farm me down before the next Frenzy Plant is reached. And we're going to beat ABA Charm, which makes me very happy. I'd have been so peed off I lost to this team. GG's that opponent regardless. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's video. Shadow Samurott, greatly improved this season, but unfortunately still falls short of other water types. Gator, Blastoise, Lapras all still do what Samurott can do objectively better, so unfortunately it's still fun niche spice at this point. Shadow Serperior is just a monster in the meta. I think both Shadow Serperior and Shadow Blossom have a lot of play with so many water types running around. You can give either one of them a try and they will bring you success. Lapras really needs nothing saying about it. An absolute monster, thanks to the buff to both Psywave and gaining access to Sparkling Aura. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. My battle submission form is linked down below. And a huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.